George. Appreciate all the effort you're putting into class and all of our discussions and everything else. And I want to give you a case study on me and some mistakes that I've made and some successes that I've had within the same aspect. So sometimes when we make our biggest mistakes, we get our biggest periods of growth with that as well. And so if you make a mistake, you can recover from it. So always think about how to recover. And this is specifically due to performance. And what had happened was I was leading the training department, learning development department to create a course for leading edge um, wingtips for the F-35. And they're built out of composite. None of the composite courses anywhere were good enough to get people to go from training into the shop and be productive. We wanted a minimum amount of downtime between training and up and running at the shop. We wanted to shrink that time dramatically. Now, what we did was we took two of our instructors, we sent them to the greatest composite course in the United States, and they came back from it. And like the day after they came back, we had a big meeting with the directors, vice presidents, and all that on this topic. We were one of the agenda items on the topic. And so we didn't have time to go over with the two instructors. So their direction was basically go take that class, and then and then take all what they learned and bring it in. So we had pretty much the same class. We were going to practice R&D, rip off and duplicate is what we were going to do. So they come back. We didn't have time to go over what they learned. We go to the meeting. So I let the two instructors who went to the training talk, and they had all their props and everything else. They said, "This is how we're going to do. This is how we're going to train your people." And they started with a big stainless steel salad bowl so that people knew how to lay up over a curved surface. And needless to say, the meeting, well, their presentation stopped about 45 seconds into it. There was a lot of yelling, even a few swear words at the same time, but they were wondering why we didn't listen to what their needs were, specifically me, why I didn't listen to whatever their needs were. Because if you're leading the team and there's a problem, it's your fault. So it was my fault, and you have to take ownership of that. Now, what that did though, because I had a lot of good relationships with the directors and everybody else, vice presidents and everybody. So I was able to smooth that out. We got together and discussed exactly what their needs were. And it had nothing to do with what our instructors learned in the composites course. They needed something specific where they could go from the training to the shop and begin working. So with minimum amount of time in between. So we didn't want to have people having to train them once they got to the shop. So we weren't there to give minimal skills and they pick up the rest of the shop. But what that did for us was that allowed us to partner with the shop that was doing this and get actual tooling built that was very similar. We couldn't use the exact tooling because it was too big, but it was very similar to the product that they were building. So we had things. So what that did was when we got that tooling, it made that time span from when the learners finished training to when they went into work, it shrunk it. It shrunk it dramatically to when they were able to work on their own. It took minimal amount of time. And what that did was that reduced cost. It was the bottom line. That's what we were trying to do: reduce cost, reduce cost, reduce cost. So by the simple act of partnering, what we did unintentionally or intentionally, for me it was intentionally, but for some it was unintentionally, with that partnership, the shop took ownership. So anybody coming from our class going to the shop, guess what? If they did not follow the directions that they learned in training, sometimes people do one thing in training and they go to the shop and they fall into old habits. It was self-policing. It was everybody was holding each other accountable. So that was a fantastic byproduct of the whole process of partnering. So that's one reason why it's so important to partner with everybody. But another thing was we were able to, because we partnered so closely with them, this would open my eyes to what actual assessment is as far as performance, is we use the metrics that they use. So we looked at the number of quality defects, and we looked at the time spent on building the product, and we compared prior to training and post training. And we also went back and we were able to measure 6 months out to make sure that the training stuck. So were they following the prescribed processes and procedures? And they did, because not only did they learn it in the training program, they follow that same thing on the shop. So it was very helpful that way as well. So what that did was, for me, that opened up my eyes quite a bit to assessment is a big part. If you tie your assessment to the metrics that are meaningful to that organization, you have something that is meaningful. If you tie it to something academic or educational, guess what? That's not going to be meaningful to that group unless they are an academic group. But if you're in manufacturing or anything else, it has to be meaningful to that organization. And partnering is critical as well, because you get a completely different perspective. Sometimes in learning and development, education, wherever you may work, we can get a little bit set in our ways, and we don't want to do that. And I guess I was set in my ways because I was ready just to have the folks steal that program and bring it in and make it a simple solution. And it didn't happen. That wasn't the correct solution. But it also taught me to listen to what our clients are saying, because we want to really take it in and not only hear what they're saying, but be able to process what they're saying and give them the best solution. So that's the key, is process what they say, do your own assessment as well, and then go ahead and synthesize the information to come up with the best solution. And that is the critical piece of everything. And that's kind of what I took away from the whole debacle with the leading edge. And after we were done, after that initial um, horrible meeting, I made sign off sheets all along the way so everybody remained on the same page. And we also did a few things with the training that I'll discuss later, but this recording, you're probably tired of hearing me already. So have a fantastic week. And that was just one of my experiences.